This is annoying and very, very expensive. So I'm going to show you 8 ways that you can avoid birds attacking your drone, and the last 3 will keep them away for good. G'day superstars, there's absolutely nothing worse than when you're out flying, birds decide to swoop and attack your drone. And apart from ruining your video and your photos, there's a huge chance that they can ruin your drone as well. So these 8 tips I'm about to show you will fix that problem. Number 1, if you're out flying and it's during nesting season, you should avoid nesting areas. Generally these areas are surrounded by lots of trees because that's where birds generally have nests. So if you're flying just for fun, avoid those areas if you can, because birds tend to get really aggressive when the drone gets close. But if you're flying for your job like I do, I have to fly every day of the year and I'm near trees and houses and things like that all the time. And I shoot all seasons, so I can't just avoid nesting areas. And in this case, if you're still getting attacked by birds, then the best thing you can do is fly straight up. Birds generally attack from above, so when you fly up, you're putting yourself in a predatory position, which generally makes them go away if they're smaller birds, but if they're larger birds or even medium-sized birds, they will circle around and come back for another shot. So flying upward, always put yourself in that position because birds can't fly directly up. And how this is great when you're doing your job, say you've got your drone in position, you can see the house you're about to photograph from above, and then birds start attacking, you literally can just go up 3 or 4 meters, they will circle around, and as they're circling around, you can take your shot and then get out of there. Now when I'm flying for real estate, I'll get my 2 close block shots and then I go up higher, probably about 100 meters up and a few hundred meters back, and I fly around in a circle, stopping every increment all the way around, taking photos. And of course, every time there's a bird there, it makes it very, very difficult. Because you're moving and stopping, moving and stopping, moving and stopping, the birds just follow you all the way around the whole time you're flying. It's very irritating. So a tip that I've found that works really well is if there's any wind, and usually if you're 100 meters up, there is wind up there, I generally fly against the wind. So I'll line up my first shot and then I'll fly against the wind in a circle. And what that does is the birds can't fly and keep up with you against the wind. So the drone will cut through the wind a hell of a lot better than a bird will. A bird will flap like crazy and stay in one spot, whereas the drone can move through the wind. So on windy days, birds actually have a real hard time keeping up with the drone. Obviously when you get halfway around, you're moving with the wind, and then the birds can catch up, but by then they're quite tired and a lot of them disperse and disappear. Number 4, birds will only generally follow your drone up to 100 or 120 meters. Obviously birds and hawks and larger birds like that will fly much higher than 100 meters or 120 meters, but I have a solution for that later in the video. But if you have laws like we do in Australia where you can't fly above 120 meters because you're entering into airspace, then you find the medium-sized and the smaller birds will follow you the whole time you're flying, which is really, really irritating. In this case, if you need to get away from them or you've finished the job you were doing, the best thing you can do is flick your drone into sports mode and outrun them. They can't keep up with your drone, especially the larger DJI drones, for instance. They just can't keep up with the pace of those drones. And that buys you enough time to land safely once you put distance between your drone and the birds. But what if you do if there's lots of birds around and you're still trying to land and they're still next to your drone? What I do is I get my drone from up above in the landing position, so I know it's just going to come straight down and land, or close enough to it if you can do it. And if birds are swarming around the drone, what I do is I go up 3 or 4 meters. And what that means is the birds have to circle around to get that height to attack your drone again. And while they're circling around, you bring your drone down. And as they come around again, you go up 2 or 3 meters, and they have to circle around and do the same thing. And in that time, you're going down. You might need to do this 3 or 4 times, but you'll get your drone on the ground safely. And now for some physical solutions against those big birds, those larger birds like hawks or flying elephants or whatever you want to call them, eagles, whatever, but some solutions for them. The first one is this reflective tape. Don't know if you can see it in the light, but basically this tape is like a bicycle reflector. It's inexpensive and it sticks on your drone just like a sticker. It also weighs almost nothing, but keep in mind if you're flying one of those drones and you're under a certain limit in weight, keep in mind that you should weigh your drone once you've put these stickers on to make sure you don't go over that limit. As you can see in this image here, you can see it's taped to the outside of my drone. It's all over it. Makes my drone look a little bit crazy, but it works really, really well against keeping those birds away. I've tried fake eyes, I've tried different colored tapes, I've tried a whole bunch of things, but this red tape seems to work the best for me. I don't know what it's going to do in countries where you are. It may work differently, but from what I've found, red seems to be the most effective. but sometimes you need a little bit extra. I've found that two types of birds in Australia will still follow my drone even with that reflective tape on. One is crows. On a sunny day, it actually keeps the crows away, which I'm really happy about. They sort of don't get anywhere near as close. We've got a bit of a crow epidemic in Melbourne at the moment. And the other one is magpies in springtime. The Australian magpie is an aggressive bird that swoops anyone that goes near their nest. Bikes going under the trees, people walking on paths, cars going past. They even peck the drone after I've landed. I'll have the drone on the ground landed and I'll fly in and I'll peck it as they fly past. They're just basically turds. So what I found that seems to work best with the medium-sized birds is these propellers. They're from Master Air Screw. As you can see, I've got these on my drone here. And I picked the color red because the red tape works, so why wouldn't red propellers work? But you can get them in pretty much any color you like. They fit all of DJI's drones and a bunch of other drones as well. They're easy to put on, and you can also see them when they're spinning, which is, I think, one of the reasons why birds tend to leave them alone. The other reason is that they actually emit a different pitch in sound. They don't sound like the DJI propellers. They're actually got a deeper tone to them, as you can hear from this comparison. It may be a combination between the color and the sound that keeps the birds away. I don't know which one works, but together they work perfectly and they work great. And the other thing they do, which is an added side bonus, is that they actually give you longer flight time. You get 1 or 2 minutes extra out of your battery using these propellers. This last one I don't use all the time, but I've found that birds get much closer to you on overcast days because the tape isn't as reflective. So I found that adding this strobe to my drone has made a huge difference. This, in combination with the tape and the propellers, keeps pretty much every bird away. As you can see when you turn it on, it's quite bright. Turn it off now. I think I'm blind. So putting this on overcast days makes a huge difference, as I said before, because you've got this in combination with the propeller and the tape. It tends to make your drone look like something that's otherworldly, and all birds just leave it alone. The other great thing about this strobe is that you can see that from 3+ miles away. So if you're flying at night time, they're very handy. And in the US, they're actually FAA approved. And they just click on top of your drone using an interlock system and they stay there. You can put a rubber band around them if you're worried about them coming off, but I generally just have that and it's fine. I've used these three objects in combination in regional areas where there are hawks and eagles and so on, and I've found that they stay completely away. I can see hawks looking and circling from above, but they don't come any closer and they tend to leave it alone. So if you're flying in areas like that where there's larger birds, I suggest you get something like this because it'll make a huge difference in the safety of your drone, because those birds, when they take your drone, they'll take the thing out of the sky. I've actually had a magpie hit my drone and fly off, feathers went everywhere. The drone righted itself and kept flying. They're quite resilient, but when a hawk takes out a drone, you go from a bird that's this big to a bird that's this big. It makes a massive difference to how much damage they do to your drone. And let's face it, most of us have got thousands of dollars invested in these things. Now, having said all that, if you fly towards an eagle's nest or a hawk's nest, you deserve to have your drone taken out of the sky. Because I think no matter what's on that drone could have machine guns mounted to it. I think you would find the hawk or the eagle would take out that drone anyway. So keep that in mind when you're flying your drone near large nerds. So keep that in mind when you're flying near nesting areas of large birds. And since we're talking about Master Air Screw propellers, I did a full performance video on these propellers. You can click that here now. Thanks for watching.